The rain drummed against the windows of Romano's restaurant as 24-year-old Maya wiped down the same table for the third time that evening. Her hands were rough from years of washing dishes and cleaning tables, but she never complained. This job was everything to her family right now. Maya had been working at Romano's for almost 2 years now. It wasn't the fanciest place in the city, but it attracted wealthy business people who liked the quiet atmosphere and excellent food. The tips were decent enough to help her take care of her grandmother Rosa, who had raised her since she was 19. That was when everything changed. When her mother died in that terrible car accident. Maya still remembered that phone call like it was yesterday. She had been in her second year of college, studying business administration, dreaming of maybe opening her own small restaurant someday. But dreams don't pay medical bills or put food on the table. Someone had to take care of Grandma Rosa, and Maya was all the family they had left. So she dropped out, packed up her textbooks, said goodbye to her college friends, and started working double shifts wherever she could find work. Romano's was her main job, but she also cleaned offices on weekends and sometimes helped at the local grocery store when they needed extra hands. Tonight was busier than usual. The restaurant was packed with people in expensive suits talking about business deals and stock prices. Maya moved between tables with practiced efficiency, refilling water glasses and clearing plates. She had learned to become invisible to these wealthy customers. They barely noticed her, which was fine by her. At exactly 8:30, the front door opened and a man walked in who made everyone in the restaurant turn and look. He was tall, probably in his late 40s, with graying hair at his temples and a presence that commanded attention. His suit probably cost more than Maya made in 3 months. Tony, the restaurant manager, practically jumped over himself to greet the man. Maya had never seen Tony act so nervous around a customer before. "Mr. Williams," Tony said, his voice shaking slightly. "Your table is ready, sir. Right this way." Maya had heard that name before. Richard Williams. He owned half the tech companies. In the city, maybe more. People said he was worth billions, though he kept to himself and rarely gave interviews. Some called him brilliant. Others called him ruthless. Maya just called him another customer. The man walked to his table with 2 other men in suits. They spread out papers and laptops, talking in low voices about numbers and contracts. Maya couldn't help but notice how the other customers kept glancing at their table, whispering among themselves. She was assigned to serve their section, along with 2 other tables. As the evening went on, Maya found herself curious about the mysterious billionaire. He wasn't loud or demanding like some wealthy customers. He spoke quietly, listened more than he talked, and actually said, "Thank you," when she refilled his coffee cup. Around 10 o'clock, the restaurant started to empty out. The businessmen were finishing their meals and getting ready to leave. Maya was clearing a nearby table when she heard Mr. Williams talking on his phone. "The Anderson deal needs to close by Friday," he was saying. "I don't care what it takes. We've put too much into this project to let it fall through now." His voice was firm but not cruel. Maya had served plenty of rude, demanding customers over the years. This man seemed different. There was something almost sad about him, though she couldn't put her finger on what it was. As Mr. Williams stood up to leave, he reached into his jacket pocket for his wallet to pay the bill. But as he pulled out some documents, his wallet slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. Maya was the closest person to where it fell. Without thinking, she quickly bent down and picked it up. The leather was expensive, but worn like it had been carried for many years. "Excuse me, sir," she said, walking over to his table. "You dropped this." Mr. Williams looked up at her, and for a moment, their eyes met. His were dark brown, almost black, and there was something familiar in them that Maya couldn't place. "Thank you," he said, reaching for the wallet. But as Maya handed it to him, the wallet opened slightly. It must have come undone when it hit the floor. A small photograph slipped out and fluttered to the ground between them. Maya's heart stopped. She bent down and picked up the photo, and the world seemed to tilt around her. Staring back at her from the old, slightly faded picture was her mother's face. Not as Maya remembered her in her final years, tired and worn from working multiple jobs, but young and radiant. probably in her early 20s. Her mother was laughing. In the photo, her head thrown back in pure joy. She was wearing a simple sundress and her long dark hair was flowing in the wind. It was clearly a candid shot, taken by someone who cared about her, someone who had caught her in a moment of genuine happiness. Maya's hands began to shake as she stared at the photograph. This wasn't just any picture of her mother. This was a photo she had never seen before, from a time in her mother's life that Maya knew almost nothing about. "Where did you get this?" Maya whispered, looking up at Mr. Williams. The color had drained from his face. He was staring at Maya as if he had seen a ghost, his mouth slightly open in shock. I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice was hoarse and uncertain. Maya held up the photograph with trembling fingers. "This is my mother. This is Elena Rodriguez. Why do you have her picture in your wallet?" The restaurant had grown quiet around them. The few remaining customers were pretending not to watch, but Maya could feel their curious stares. Tony was hovering nearby, clearly uncomfortable with the scene unfolding at his most important customer's table. Mr. Williams looked from the photo to Maya's face and back again. She could see recognition dawning in his eyes along with something that looked like pain. "You're Elena's daughter," he said softly. It wasn't a question. "Yes, I am. And I want to know why you have her picture. I want to know how you knew my mother." Maya's voice was getting louder now and she didn't care who was listening. This man, this stranger, had been carrying around a photograph of her dead mother like some kind of treasure. What possible connection could a billionaire have to Elena Rodriguez, a woman who had spent her whole life struggling to make ends meet? Mr. Williams stood up slowly, his business papers forgotten. He looked older suddenly, as if the last few minutes had aged him years. "This isn't the place for this conversation," he said quietly. "Then where is?" Maya demanded. "Sir, you have my mother's picture, a picture I've never seen before. I think I deserve an explanation." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Maya could see the wheels turning in his mind, could see him wrestling with some internal struggle. Finally he spoke. "What was your mother's maiden name?" "Rodriguez. Elena Rodriguez. She married my father when she was 22 and I was born 2 years later." Something flickered across Mr. Williams's face when she mentioned her father, but Maya couldn't read what it meant. "Your father's name?" "Miguel Martinez. He died when I was 12. Maya's voice softened at the mention of her father. He had been a good man, gentle and hard-working, who had loved his family more than anything in the world. Mr. Williams nodded slowly, as if pieces of a puzzle were falling into place in his mind. "Miss Martinez," he said finally, "I think we need to talk." 3 days passed before Maya could bring herself to call the number Mr. Williams had written on the back of his business card. She had spent those 3 days staring at that card, turning it over and over in her hands, wondering if she really wanted to know the truth. The photograph of her mother hadn't left her mind for a single moment. She kept picturing that young, happy face, so different from the tired woman she remembered from her childhood. Her mother had always seemed older than her years, carrying the weight of responsibilities that Maya was only now beginning to understand. Finally, on Thursday morning, after another sleepless night, Maya dialed the number. "Mr. Williams' office," a polite voice answered. "This is Maya Martinez. He asked me to call." There was a pause. "One moment, please, Miss Martinez." Within seconds, Mr. Williams's familiar voice came on the line. "Maya, I was hoping you would call. I need to know the truth," she said without any greeting. "About that picture. About my mother. Can you meet me for coffee this afternoon? There's a small place on 5th Street called Danny's Diner. It's quiet, and we can talk privately." Maya knew the place. It was nothing fancy, just a simple diner where working people grabbed quick meals. She was surprised he would suggest somewhere so ordinary. 2 o'clock, she asked. "I'll be there." Maya spent the rest of the morning in a daze at work. She kept making small mistakes, forgetting orders and spilling water glasses. Finally, Tony pulled her aside. "You okay, kid? You seem distracted." "Just some family stuff," Maya said, which wasn't exactly a lie. Take the afternoon off if you need to. Rosa doing all right? Maya nodded. Her grandmother had been asking questions about her strange mood for the past few days, but Maya hadn't known how to explain what was happening. How do you tell someone that a billionaire stranger has been carrying your dead mother's photograph for who knows how many years? At 2 o'clock sharp, Maya walked into Danny's diner. Mr. Williams was already there, sitting in a corner booth, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit. He had ordered coffee but hadn't touched it. Maya slid into the seat across from him, her heart pounding. Up close, in the bright afternoon light, she could see lines around his eyes that spoke of years of stress and sleepless nights. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "I almost didn't." Maya folded her hands on the table to stop them from shaking. "This whole thing is crazy. I don't even know why I'm here." Mr. Williams reached into his jacket and pulled out the photograph. He placed it carefully on the table between them, and Maya found herself staring at her mother's young, laughing face again. "I took this picture 26 years ago," he said. "Your mother was 21. We were at the park near the university just spending a lazy Sunday afternoon together." Maya's throat tightened. "The university?" "State University. We were both students there. Elena was studying literature and I was in the business program." His voice was soft, almost dreamy, as if he was seeing something far away. She wanted to be a teacher. She loved books, loved helping people learn. This was news to Maya. Her mother had never mentioned going to college. In fact, Maya had always believed her mother never had the chance for higher education. "That's impossible," Maya said. "My mother never went to college. She worked in factories and cleaned offices her whole life." Mr. Williams looked at her with something like pity in his eyes. "There's a lot about your mother's life that you don't know, Maya. Things she never told you, probably to protect you." "Protect me from what?" He was quiet for a long moment, turning his coffee cup in slow circles on the table. Finally, he looked up at her. "Elena and I were together for 3 years. We met in our sophomore year, in a literature class we both had to take. I was focused on business, making money, building something big. She was the opposite, caring, thoughtful, more interested in helping people than making profits." Maya listened, trying to picture her tired, overworked mother as a young college student in love. "We balanced each other out," Mr. Williams continued. "She taught me that there was more to life than just success and money. I showed her that it was okay to dream big, to want more from life. We talked about getting married after graduation, maybe starting a small business together." "Then what happened?" Maya asked, though part of her didn't want to know. "Everything fell apart in the spring of our senior year. Elena's father got sick, really sick. Her family couldn't afford the medical bills. They were going to lose their house, everything they had." Maya remembered her grandfather vaguely. He had died when she was very young, but she remembered him as a quiet man who worked with his hands and always smelled like sawdust. "I offered to help," Mr. Williams said. "I had some money saved up and I was already making good connections in the business world. But Elena's family had their pride. They didn't want charity, especially not from some rich kid who was dating their daughter. So what did she do? She started working extra jobs to help with the bills. Her grades suffered and she was exhausted all the time. I kept trying to convince her to let me help, but she refused. Then suddenly she broke up with me." Maya leaned forward. "Why?" "She said she didn't love me anymore. Said she had realized we were too different, that we wanted different things from life. She said I was too focused on money and success, and she needed someone who understood what it meant to struggle." There was real pain in his voice as he spoke, even after all these years. "I was devastated," he continued. "I tried to change her mind, but she wouldn't even talk to me. A few weeks later, I heard she had dropped out of school. Then I graduated and moved away to start my first company. I told myself I needed to forget about her and focus on building my future." Maya was trying to process all of this information. Her mother had been in love with this man, had been planning a future with him, and then had just walked away. "But you kept her picture all these years." Mr. Williams nodded. "I know it sounds pathetic, but I never stopped loving her. Even when I was angry, Even when I told myself she had just used me and thrown me away, I couldn't bring myself to get rid of that photo. Did you ever try to find her? His face darkened. About 10 years ago, I hired a private investigator. I told myself I just wanted to know if she was okay, if she was happy. And he found out she had married a man named Miguel Martinez just 6 months after she broke up with me. They had a daughter, you, and seemed to be living a quiet life. Maya felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her was angry at her mother for keeping such a huge secret. Part of her was sad for this man who had clearly never gotten over his first love. That should have been the end of it, Mr. Williams said. But the investigator kept digging. He found out that Elena's family situation had gotten much worse after she dropped out of school. Her father's medical bills had bankrupted them. That's when I realized the truth. What truth? She didn't break up with me because she stopped loving me. She broke up with me because she thought I would be better off without her and her family's problems. She sacrificed her own happiness to protect me from getting dragged down by their financial troubles. Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes. This sounded exactly like something her mother would do, always putting other people's needs before her own. When I realized what she had done, I wanted to reach out to her, Mr. Williams said, but she was married, seemed to have built a life. I didn't want to disrupt that, so I just watched from a distance, made sure she was okay. What do you mean, watched from a distance? Mr. Williams looked uncomfortable. Small things. Anonymous donations when your father got sick. A scholarship that mysteriously appeared when you started college. Help with medical bills when your grandmother needed surgery. Maya's mouth fell open. That was you? I couldn't help Elena directly, but I could make sure her family was taken care of. It was the least I could do. The least you could do for what? Mr. Williams was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. For losing the love of my life because I was too proud and too stupid to fight for her when she needed me most. Maya couldn't sleep for a week after that conversation at Danny's diner. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's young face in that photograph, laughing and carefree in a way Maya had never seen her in real life. The story Mr. Williams had told her kept playing over and over in her mind, but something didn't feel right about it. She found herself studying her grandmother Rosa more carefully, looking for signs that the old woman knew more than she was letting. And Rosa had always been sharp, even at 78. But lately Maya noticed how her grandmother would change the subject whenever Maya asked about her mother's younger years. Finally, Maya couldn't take it anymore. She needed answers, and she had a feeling Mr. Williams hadn't told her everything. On a rainy Tuesday morning, instead of going to work, Maya took the bus across town to the gleaming glass tower that housed Williams Industries. She had never been in a building so tall or so fancy. The lobby was all marble and gold, with security guards in expensive suits and a reception desk that looked like it belonged in a palace. I need to see Mr. Williams, Maya told the receptionist, a perfectly dressed woman who looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Do you have an appointment? No, but he'll want to see me. Tell him Maya Martinez is here. The receptionist made a phone call, speaking in hushed tones. After a few minutes, she hung up and looked surprised. Mr. Williams will see you right away. Take the elevator to the 50th floor. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Maya watched the numbers climb higher and higher, taking her further from the world she knew. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into an office that was bigger than her entire apartment. Mr. Williams was standing by the window, looking out at the city below. He turned when she entered, and she could see he had been expecting this. Visit, Maya. I wondered when you would come. You lied to me, she said without any greeting. Or at least you didn't tell me the whole truth. He gestured to a chair in front of his massive desk. Sit down, please. I'll stand. I want to know what really happened between you and my mother. And don't give me some romantic story about young love and sacrifice. There's more to it, isn't there? Mr. Williams walked back to his desk and sat down heavily. He looked tired, older than he had just a week ago. What makes you think there's more? Because I know my mother. She was the strongest person I ever met. She wouldn't have just run away from someone she loved because of money problems. She would have found a way to make it work. Maya moved closer to the desk. And because I've been doing some math, my mother broke up with you in the spring of your senior year. She married my father 6 months later. I was born 8 months after that. The silence in the room was so thick Maya could almost touch it. Mr. Williams stared at her for a long moment, then slowly opened a drawer in his desk. He pulled out a manila folder and placed it on the desk between them. I was hoping you wouldn't figure that out, he said quietly. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Figure what out? Your mother didn't just break up with me because of her family's money problems, Maya. She broke up with me because she found out she was pregnant. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She gripped the edge of the desk to keep from falling. Pregnant with who? She whispered, though she already knew the answer. With you. Maya sank into the chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. That's impossible. Miguel Martinez is my father. He raised me. He loved me. Miguel Martinez is the man who married your mother and gave you his name, Mr. Williams said, gently. He was a good man who loved you both very much. But he wasn't your biological father. Maya felt like the world was spinning around her. Everything she thought she knew about her life, her family, her identity was crumbling. You're lying. Mr. Williams opened the folder and pulled out several papers. Birth certificates, medical records, DNA tests. I've known the truth for 5 years, Maya. Ever since your mother died. DNA tests? How did you get my DNA? A coffee cup you left at the restaurant. I know it sounds terrible, but I had to know for sure. Maya stared at the papers, the official seals and signatures that were about to change her entire understanding of herself. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come forward when she died? Because you were grieving, because you had just lost the only parents you had ever known. Because I didn't know how to walk into your life and tell you that everything you believed was a lie. So you just watched me struggle? You watched me drop out of college, work 3 jobs, barely make ends meet, and you said nothing? I helped when I could, anonymously. The scholarship money, the medical bills. That's not the same thing. Maya's voice was rising now. I'm your daughter, and you let me think I was alone in the world. Mr. Williams flinched as if she had slapped him. I know I was a coward, but I didn't know how to be a father. I still don't. Maya stood up and began pacing around the office. My whole life is a lie. My mother lied to me, to my father, to Miguel, to everyone. Your mother did what she thought was best. She was 21 years old, pregnant and scared. Her family was falling apart financially. She thought I would be better off without the burden of a wife and child when I was just starting my career. So she married Miguel instead. Miguel was a good man who was already in love with her. He offered her stability, a name for her child, and a chance at a normal life. She thought she was doing the right thing for everyone. Maya stopped pacing and turned to face him. Did Miguel know? Did he know I wasn't his biological daughter? Mr. Williams shook his head. I don't think so. The timing worked out well enough that he probably never questioned it. And you have his eyes, his smile. He loved you from the moment you were born. But I'm not really his daughter. Love makes you family, Maya, not just blood. Miguel Martinez was your father in every way that mattered. He raised you, he cared for you. He would have done anything for you. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. I don't know who I am anymore. You're the same person you were yesterday. You're still the young woman who works 2 jobs to take care of her grandmother. You're still the girl who was smart enough to get into college. You're still Maya Martinez. But I'm also your daughter. Yes, you are. They stood there in silence for a long time, both trying to process the weight of this revelation. What happens now? Maya finally asked. That's up to you. I don't expect anything from you. I know I gave up the right to be your father a long time ago, but if you want to know more about your mother's time with me, if you want to understand why she made the choices she did, I can tell you. Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I want to see everything. The medical records, the DNA tests, all of it. I need to know the whole truth. Mr. Williams nodded and pushed the folder toward her. It's all there. As Maya picked up the folder, she felt like she was holding her entire life in her hands. Everything she thought she knew was about to change, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. "There's one more thing," Mr. Williams said quietly. "Your mother left something for you. Something she wanted you to have if you ever found out the truth." He opened another drawer and pulled out a small jewelry box. Inside was a simple gold locket that Maya recognized immediately. Her mother had worn it every day for as long as Maya could remember. "She gave this to me the day before she married Miguel," Mr. Williams said. "She said if anything ever happened to her, and if you ever learned the truth about your father, I should give it to you." Maya opened the locket with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny photograph of herself as a baby, and on the other side, a picture of Mr. Williams as a young man. "She never stopped loving you," Maya whispered. "And I never stopped loving her." Maya didn't speak to Mr. Williams for 2 weeks after learning the truth. She went back to her normal routine, working at Romano's, taking care of grandmother Rosa, trying to pretend that her entire world hadn't been turned upside down. But everything felt different now. She found herself staring at her reflection in mirrors, looking for signs of Mr. Williams in her face. Were those his eyes? His nose? Had people always seen the resemblance but been too polite to mention it? The questions never stopped spinning in her mind. Rosa noticed the change immediately. Her grandmother had always been able to read Maya like an open book. "Mija, what's troubling you?" Rosa asked one evening as they sat together watching their old television. "You've been so quiet lately, so far away." Maya wanted to tell her grandmother everything, but she didn't know where to start. "How do you explain that your entire life story has been rewritten?" "Just work stuff, Grandma. Nothing to worry about." But Rosa wasn't fooled. She reached over and took Maya's hand in her weathered ones. "I've been watching you for 24 years, child. I know when something big is bothering you. You can talk to me about anything, you know that." Maya squeezed her grandmother's hand. Rosa was all the family she had left now, or at least all the family she had grown up knowing. That's when the phone rang. Rosa struggled to get up from her chair, but Maya was already moving. "I'll get it, Grandma. Just rest." But as Rosa tried to stand, she suddenly gasped and clutched her chest. Her face went pale and she collapsed back into the chair, breathing heavily. "Grandma!" Maya dropped the phone and rushed to Rosa's side. "What's wrong? What's happening?" Can't breathe properly," Rosa whispered, her voice weak and strained. "Chest feels tight." Maya's nursing training from her brief time in college kicked in. This looked like a heart attack or at least serious heart trouble. She immediately called 911, her hands shaking as she dialed. The ambulance arrived within minutes, but it felt like hours to Maya. She rode with Rosa to the hospital, holding her grandmother's hand and trying to stay calm even though she was terrified inside. At the hospital, the doctors rushed Rosa into emergency care. Maya sat in the waiting room, alone and scared, watching the clock tick by. Hours passed before a doctor finally came to talk to her. "Miss Martinez, I'm Dr. Peterson. Your grandmother is stable now, but she's had a serious heart episode. She's going to need surgery, a heart bypass, and soon." Maya felt her knees go weak. "Is she going to be okay?" "The surgery has a good success rate, especially for someone of her age who's been relatively healthy. But I won't lie to you, it's expensive. Do you have insurance?" Maya's heart sank. Rosa had basic Medicare, but she knew it wouldn't cover everything. And the cost for this kind of surgery, how much are we talking about? With the surgery, hospital stay, and follow-up care, you're looking at around $60,000. That won't be covered by insurance. $60,000. Maya made about $20,000 a year working all her jobs combined. Even if she worked for the rest of her life, she could never afford this. Can we set up a payment plan?" Dr. Peterson looked sympathetic but realistic. "We can work something out, but the hospital will need a significant down payment before we can schedule the surgery. At least $20,000. Maya sat down, heavily in the waiting room chair. $20,000. She had about $800 in her savings account. "How long do we have?" We need to do the surgery within the next 2 weeks. Waiting longer than that becomes dangerous. After the doctor left, Maya sat alone in the hospital waiting room, feeling more helpless than she ever had in her life. Rosa was the only family she had left, the only family she had ever really known. The woman who had raised her, loved her, sacrificed for her, and now Maya couldn't even afford to save her life. She was still sitting there 3 hours later when someone sat down in the chair next to her. Maya, she looked up to see Mr. Williams. He was dressed more casually than she had ever seen him, in jeans and a simple sweater, and he looked genuinely worried. "How did you know I was here?" "I have a friend who works at the hospital. She called me when she saw the name Martinez come through emergency." He paused. "How is Rosa?" Maya was too tired and too scared to be angry. "She needs heart surgery. $60,000. Money I don't have." Mr. Williams was quiet for a moment. "I can take care of it." "No." Maya's response was immediate and firm. "Absolutely not. Maya, she's your grandmother. She raised you. Let me help." "I don't want your charity." Maya stood up, her exhaustion making her wobble slightly. "I don't want your guilt money. This isn't about guilt. This is about family." "Family?" Maya turned to face him, her voice rising. "You've been my biological father for 24 years, and I just found out 2 weeks ago. You don't get to play the family card now." "You're right," Mr. Williams said quietly. "I don't have the right to call myself your father. But Rosa does have the right to live. And if I can help make that happen, then I'm going to do it." Maya wanted to argue, but she was so tired and so scared. The thought of losing Rosa was unbearable. "I won't take charity," she said finally. "Then don't think of it as charity. Think of it as a loan. You can pay me back." "With what money?" "I make minimum wage." Mr. Williams was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see him thinking. "I have a proposition," he said finally. "Come work for me at Williams Industries. I'll pay you a real salary, enough to live comfortably and pay me back over time." "You're smart, Maya. You were in college before you had to drop out. You could learn the business." Maya stared at him. "You want to give me a job? I want to give you an opportunity. The same opportunity your mother should have had 25 years ago." "I don't know anything about business. Neither did I when I started. But I had something that can't be taught. I had drive, determination, and the willingness to work hard. You have all of those things too." Maya sank back into her chair. It was tempting, more tempting than she wanted to admit. A real job with real pay, doing something more meaningful than waiting tables. What would I be doing? Learning, starting at the bottom and working your way up. I have a community outreach program that helps struggling families. You could start there. You understand what it's like to need help because you've lived it. And Rosa's surgery. I'll take care of it tonight. The money will be transferred to the hospital first thing in the morning." Maya looked down at her hands. They were rough and scarred from years of hard work, cleaning tables and washing dishes. Could these same hands learn to work in an office? To help run a company? "If I take this job, it's not because you're my biological father. It's because I need the money to take care of Rosa and pay you back." "I understand. And I don't want any special treatment. I want to earn my place like everyone else." "You will." Maya took a deep breath. She was about to step into a world she knew nothing about, working for a man who was essentially a stranger to her, a stranger who happened to share her DNA. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll do it." Mr. Williams nodded, and for the first time since she had met him, Maya saw something that might have been relief in his eyes. "There's one more thing," he said. "If you're going to work for Williams Industries, you should probably call me Richard. Mr. Williams is a bit formal for everyday conversation." "Richard," Maya repeated, testing how the name felt in her mouth. It was strange, calling him by his first name. Strange, but somehow right. "Maya," he said, "I know this is all complicated and confusing, but I want you to know, I'm glad you're giving this a chance. Not just for Rosa's sake, but because I think you're going to surprise yourself with what you're capable of. As Maya looked at him, this man who was her father but not her dad, this stranger who was offering to save the most important person in her life, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something good. But first, she had to make sure Rosa was okay. Everything else could wait. 6 months had passed since Maya started working at Williams Industries. Rosa's surgery had been a complete success, and she was back to her old self, though she moved a little slower and needed more rest than before. Maya had thrown herself into her new job with a determination that surprised even her. She started in the community outreach department, helping families who were struggling with medical bills, housing problems, and educational needs. It felt good to be on the other side of charity for once, to be the one helping instead of the one needing help. Richard had kept his word about not giving her special treatment. Maya worked long hours, learned every aspect of the business, and slowly earned the respect of her coworkers. Some of them knew she was connected to Richard somehow, but no one knew the full truth. Maya preferred it that way. Her relationship with Richard had grown slowly and carefully. He wasn't trying to be her father. They both understood that ship had sailed long ago. But they had developed a mutual respect and something that might eventually become friendship. Maya was working late one Friday evening, finishing up reports for a new scholarship program, when she heard a soft knock on her office door. "Come in," she called without looking up. "Maya, it's me." It was Rosa's voice. Maya looked up in surprise. Her grandmother rarely came to the office and never this late in the evening. "Grandma, what are you doing here? How did you even get up here?" Rosa smiled and settled into the chair across from Maya's desk. "That nice security guard downstairs knows me. I told him I was bringing dinner to my granddaughter who works too much." She held up a paper bag that smelled like Rosa's famous homemade tamales. "You shouldn't be carrying heavy bags, Grandma. The doctor said to take it easy." "The doctor said to take care of my heart. And my heart is happiest when I'm taking care of you." Rosa studied Maya's face carefully. "You look tired, mija. But also different. Happier, maybe?" Maya saved her work and closed her laptop. "I like this job, Grandma. I like feeling useful, like I'm making a difference. And Mr. Williams, Richard, how are things with him?" This was delicate territory. Maya had told Rosa that Richard was an old friend of her mother's who had offered her a job, but she hadn't shared the whole truth about their relationship. She wasn't sure Rosa was ready for that shock. "He's a good boss. Fair. He treats me like everyone else." Rosa nodded slowly, but there was something in her expression that made Maya think her grandmother knew more than she was letting on. "Maya, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Rosa reached into her purse and pulled out a small wooden box that Maya had never seen before. It was old and worn, with intricate carvings on the lid. "This belonged to your mother. She gave it to me before she died, and made me promise to give it to you when the time was right." "What's in it?" "Letters. Letters she wrote but never sent. Letters that explain everything." Maya stared at the box, afraid to touch it. "Letters to who?" "To Richard. To you. To your father, Miguel. Letters she wrote when she was scared, when she was confused, when she didn't know what to do." With trembling hands, Maya opened the box. Inside were dozens of letters, some in envelopes that had never been opened. Others just folded pieces of paper covered in her mother's familiar handwriting. Maya picked up the first letter. It was addressed to Richard and dated just 1 month after she was born. "My dearest Richard," she read aloud, her voice barely a whisper. "I know I have no right to write to you after what I did, but I need you to know the truth. I need you to know about your daughter." Maya looked up at Rosa, tears already forming in her eyes. She was going to tell him? "She wrote that letter 50 times, mija. But she never sent it. She was too afraid." Maya continued reading. In the letter, her mother explained everything: the pregnancy, the fear, the impossible choice between love and security. She wrote about holding Maya for the first time and seeing Richard's eyes looking back at her. She wrote about loving Miguel but never being able to forget Richard. She wrote to you too, Rosa said softly, pointing to another stack of letters. Maya picked up a letter addressed to "My beautiful daughter" and dated on Maya's 18th birthday. "If you are reading this," the letter began, "then you have learned the truth about your father. I pray that you can forgive me for keeping this secret from you. I made my choices out of love. Love for you, love for Richard, love for Miguel. But I know now that love sometimes requires truth, even when truth is painful." Maya's mother went on to explain her decision to marry Miguel, her regret at hurting Richard, and her hope that someday Maya would understand why she had done what she did. "I see your father in you every day," the letter continued. "Your curiosity, your determination, your kindness. I see Miguel too, your gentle heart, your loyalty, your strength. You are the best of both of them, my darling girl. Never doubt that you were loved by all of us." Maya was crying now, the letter shaking in her hands. Rosa reached across the desk and squeezed her granddaughter's hand. "There's more," Rosa said gently. "Letters she wrote when you were little, when you started school, when you graduated high school. She kept track of everything she wanted to tell Richard about you, even though she never had the courage to reach out." Maya picked up another letter, this one dated just 2 weeks before her mother's death. "I know I'm dying," the letter began. "The doctors don't say it, but I can feel it. I'm not afraid for myself, but I'm terrified for Maya. She's so strong, but she's going to be alone. I've asked Rosa to give her these letters when she's ready, when she's found you somehow, because I know she will. She has your stubbornness, Richard. She never gives up on anything." The letter went on to ask Richard to take care of Maya, not as charity, but as family. It asked him to help her finish college, to show her the world beyond their small neighborhood, to give her the opportunities her mother never had. "I know I hurt you," the letter concluded. "I know I took away your chance to be a father to her when she was small. But if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, please be part of her life now. She needs family, and whether she knows it or not, she needs her father." Maya looked up to find Richard standing in the doorway of her office. She didn't know how long he had been there or how much he had heard. "Rosa called me," he said quietly. "She thought it was time." Maya held up the letters, her face streaked with tears. "Did you know about these?" "No. But I hoped something like them existed. Your mother was too thoughtful, too careful, to not leave some kind of explanation." Richard walked slowly into the office and sat down in the chair next to Rosa. "I've been waiting 6 months for you to decide if you wanted me in your life," he said. "I didn't want to push, didn't want to force a relationship, but I want you to know I would be honored to be your father, if you'll have me." Maya looked at this man who had loved her mother, who had unknowingly helped her family for years, who had given her a chance when she needed it most. "I don't need another father," she said finally. "Miguel was my father, and nothing will ever change that. But I think I could use a friend, a family friend who happens to share my DNA." Richard smiled, and for the first time Maya could see the young man her mother had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I would like that very much." Rosa reached into her purse and pulled out one more thing, a small frame containing a photo of Elena, Richard, and baby Maya, taken in the hospital on the day Maya was born. In the picture, Elena was smiling tiredly, Richard was gazing at Maya with wonder, and baby Maya was sleeping peacefully between them. "She had this picture taken in secret," Rosa explained. "She wanted you both to know that for one moment, just one perfect moment, you were a family." Maya took the photo and studied it carefully. For the first time in her life, she could see her complete story, where she came from, who she was, and why she had been so deeply loved by so many people. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered, for keeping her secrets and for knowing when it was time to share them. As the three of them sat together in Maya's office, surrounded by letters and memories, and the promise of a future they could build. Together, Maya finally understood what her mother had been trying to tell her all along. Love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes it means letting go. Sometimes it means holding on. But it always means making the choice that protects the people we care about most. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, it means getting a second chance to build the family we were always meant to have.